Okay, so you want to buy a football club. You've watched the documentaries. You picture a fairy tale promotion, standing in the director's box in a tailored coat, a passionate local community cheering your name from the terraces, and taking a historic team from the lower leagues straight to the top flight. It sounds like the ultimate passion project that eventually pays for itself. Here is the problem. The math most people are doing is wrong. Not slightly wrong. Completely wrong. Because what you see on the outside of lower league football, the goal highlights, the trophy lifts, the loyal fans singing in the rain, has almost nothing to do with what the business actually looks like from the inside. And the gap between those two pictures is where fortunes go to die. Before we talk about glory, we need to talk about what you are actually buying. Because a lower league football club is not a standard business. In a normal business, you invest in assets that generate a return, you control your labor costs, and you price your product to guarantee a margin. In football, your primary assets have a shelf life of a decade. Their value can go to zero overnight from a bad tackle, your labor costs are dictated by desperation, and your margin is mathematically designed to be negative. The first trap is the purchase price. You have heard the stories of historic football clubs being sold for exactly £1. It sounds like the bargain of a lifetime. You hand over a coin and you own a 140-year-old institution. But you are not buying an institution for £1. You are assuming the liabilities of a sinking ship. That £1 purchase price usually comes attached to a legal obligation to clear the club's outstanding debt, pay off the departing owner's director loans, and settle immediate tax bills with the government. A £1 club routinely costs £2 to £3 million in cash on day one, just to keep the lights on and stop the tax authorities from issuing a winding up order before you have even printed your name on the stationery. And then you look at the stadium. To the fans, it is a cathedral. To an owner, it is a concrete liability. Safety compliance in modern football is relentless and expensive. If you are operating in the English Football League, the stadium must meet stringent safety criteria. The floodlights need to meet specific lux levels for broadcasting. If they fail the test, that is a £100,000 upgrade. The terracing needs structural integrity surveys. Turnstiles require modern electronic ticketing systems. And the pitch itself is not just grass. A professional pitch is a highly engineered drainage system that requires intense daily maintenance, specialized grow lights in the winter, and undersoil heating to prevent matches from being postponed when it freezes. A postponed match in the middle of winter does not just delay the game, it destroys your cash flow for the entire month because you still have to pay the players on Friday, but the gate receipts from the fans are not coming in. Budget £500,000 in your first year just to stop the physical infrastructure of the club from falling apart. So the stadium is compliant, the tax bill is paid. Now the real cost begins. The single largest line item in any football club's budget, the one that will dictate whether you survive or go into administration, is the wage bill. In a healthy business, labor costs consume 30 to 40% of revenue. In the English Championship, the league right below the Premier League, the average wage-to-turnover ratio routinely exceeds 100%. Some clubs spend 120% of every single pound they earn solely on paying players and staff. That is not a business model. That is a managed financial crisis. You might think you will run your club differently. You will be disciplined. You will implement a strict wage cap. But here's what happens the moment the season starts. You lose 3 games in a row. The fans turn on the manager. The manager tells you the squad is too thin and demands a new striker in the January transfer window. The striker's agent knows you are desperate. So a player who is objectively worth £2,000 a week suddenly demands £4,000 a week, plus a signing-on fee, plus an appearance bonus, plus a goal bonus, plus an agent fee that can equal 10% of the entire contract value. If you refuse, you risk relegation. If you agree, you have just inflated your wage structure. Because the moment you pay that striker £4,000 a week, your captain finds out, your goalkeeper finds out, and next summer every single contract renewal starts at that new inflated baseline. And these are guaranteed contracts. If a player tears his anterior cruciate ligament in August and cannot play for 9 months, you pay him in full. If your manager loses the dressing room and you are forced to sack him, you do not just stop paying him. You pay out the remainder of his 2-year contract in severance, and then you immediately hire a new manager and you pay him too. You are now paying 2 managers to do one job, while your wage-to-turnover ratio climbs to 130%. Given all of this, you might ask where the revenue actually comes from to cover these massive, guaranteed costs. The answer is highly fragile. At the elite level, the Premier League or the Champions League, clubs are essentially media companies. They survive on multi-billion-pound global broadcasting rights. But down in the lower leagues, the television money shrinks drastically. In League 1 or League 2, the solidarity payments and basic broadcasting distributions from the EFL might cover a fraction of your operating budget. The rest has to come from the people walking through the turnstiles. Matchday revenue is the lifeblood of a lower league club. ticketing, hospitality, pies, pints, and merchandise. But matchday revenue is brutally unpredictable. If it rains on a Tuesday night in November, your walk-up crowd disappears. That is £15,000 missing from the budget. If the team goes on a losing streak, attendances drop. If you draw a massive Premier League club in the FA Cup third round, you might suddenly generate £500,000 in gate receipts and television money in a single afternoon. It is a lottery ticket that owners desperately pray for every single December. But you cannot build a sustainable business model on the hope of drawing Manchester United in a cup competition. You build it on commercial sponsorships, which at this level are local businesses paying £10,000 to put their logo on the back of the shorts, or £50,000 to sponsor the front of the shirt. It is incremental revenue that barely scratches the surface of the millions required to run the operation. Then, there is the academy. Developing local talent sounds like the most financially prudent strategy available. You bring in 8-year-olds, train them for a decade, and sell them for millions. But operating a Category 3 or Category 2 academy under the Elite Player Performance Plan is a massive fixed cost. You need full-time coaches, safeguarding officers, physiotherapists, analysts, and educational tutors. You transport youth teams across the country every weekend. An academy can easily cost a lower league club £500,000 to £1 million a year to operate. And the math on youth development is punishing. For every one player who makes it to your first team and is eventually sold for a profit, hundreds of boys will be released at age 16 for zero return. You are funding a high-overhead education and athletic machine where your primary assets almost always walk away for nothing. And if you do produce a generational talent, the elite Premier League clubs can legally poach them at age 14 for a tribunal-set compensation fee that is a fraction of their future market value. You take all the development risk. The elite clubs take all the upside. Let us actually do the math on what a year in this business looks like. Starting with the version where things go perfectly. In an optimistic year in League One, your club generates around £6 million in total revenue. Attendances are up because you are fighting for promotion. You have a decent cup run that brings in an unbudgeted £300,000. Your commercial team sells out the hospitality suites every Saturday. Total cash in the door, £6.3 million. Now the costs. Your playing squad and management staff wages consume £4.5 million. Administrative staff, ground staff, and academy coaches take another £1 million. Stadium operations, matchday policing, travel, hotels, and maintenance cost £1.5 million. Your total operating expenses are £7 million. In a great year, where everything goes right on the pitch, your football club has lost £700,000 in cold, hard cash. This is the structural reality. Success in football often costs more than failure, because players demand promotion bonuses, and their contracts automatically trigger wage increases the moment you move up to the next division. That £700,000 shortfall has to be covered by the owner. By you. Writing a personal check, converting it into equity, just to balance the books and satisfy the league's profitability and sustainability rules. Now, here is the realistic year, the bad year. You suffer an injury crisis in October. Your two best strikers are out for the season. The team slides down the table. The fans stop buying season tickets for the following year because the football is unwatchable. You sack the manager in December, triggering a £300,000 severance payout. The new manager demands 3 new players in January to save the club from relegation, adding £400,000 to the wage bill. It rains heavily in February, and your poorly draining pitch forces 2 matches to be postponed until Tuesday nights, slashing your gate receipts by 40%. Your total revenue drops to £4.5 million. Your operating costs, bloated by severance pay and January panic buys, balloon to £8 million. You have just lost £3.5 million in a single season. And here's the terrifying part of the bad year. You get relegated. In American sports, there is no relegation. The worst team in the league gets the first draft pick and a guaranteed share of the broadcasting revenue next year. In global football, the worst teams fall off a cliff. If you are relegated from the English Football League into the National League, the broadcasting money practically evaporates. The solidarity payments vanish. The prestige is gone. But your players are still holding contracts signed at Football League wage levels. Unless you had the foresight to include mandatory relegation wage reduction clauses in every single contract, which agents fight bitterly to remove, you are now paying League One wages on a National League revenue stream. This is the exact trap that has forced dozens of historic community clubs into administration, point deductions, and near extinction. The difference between a good year and a bad year in this business is not measured in how many shirts you sold in the club shop. It is measured in millions of pounds of personal cash injected by the owner to keep the creditors away. And almost none of that swing is something the owner completely controls. You can hire the best data analysts, you can build a sustainable scouting model, and you can still lose on a Saturday because a referee missed an offside call in the 89th minute, costing you a playoff spot and £2 million in potential promotion revenue. So, if the math is this objectively terrible, why do wealthy, highly intelligent business people continue to buy lower league football clubs? They are not buying them because they expect a quarterly dividend. They are buying them for reasons entirely disconnected from standard business logic. The first reason is ego and status. A successful businessman can build 100 warehouses and nobody in the city will know his name. But if he buys the local football club and wins promotion, he is a god. 50,000 people will chant his name. It is a level of civic validation that money simply cannot buy anywhere else. The second reason is community leverage. A football club is the cultural heartbeat of a town. Owners who control the football club often find that doors open in local government, city planning, and regional politics that were previously locked. The third reason is real estate. Many historic clubs sit on prime city center real estate. Some owners buy the club, separate the stadium from the football operation into a different holding company, and ultimately redevelop the land, building housing or commercial properties around the stadium footprint. They use the football club as a loss-leading anchor tenant for a massive real estate play. The football loses money, but the property development makes a fortune. And finally, there is the lottery ticket of the Premier League. The English Premier League is the most lucrative domestic sports league on the planet. If you can navigate the financial bloodbath of the lower leagues, subsidize the losses for a decade, and miraculously string together 3 promotions, the math changes overnight. The broadcasting revenue jumps from a few million to over £100 million instantly. The club's valuation skyrockets from £5 million to £150 million. It is an astronomical return on investment. But the graveyard of English football is filled with smart businessmen who thought they could outsmart the system, who believed they were the exception to the rule, and who chased that Premier League lottery ticket until they ran out of cash. If you want to own a football club, remember what is actually happening when you sign the paperwork. You are not buying a traditional asset. You are buying a highly emotional, financially irrational community trust that will demand every ounce of your time, a significant portion of your wealth, and offers zero guarantees in return. The owners who survive this business long-term are rarely the ones who spend the most money on strikers. They are the ones who accepted on day one that the football club was never really designed to make a profit.